The 90s brought some great cultural content, but it also brought some seriously strange pieces of media. While there were plenty of weird movies and cartoons out there, some of the weirdest examples are actually puppet shows from the 90s. What were some of those weird children's puppet shows? Let's jump in. Among these insane 90s puppet shows were ones with human puppet hybrids, aliens, dinosaurs, interspecies families, and things we'd all generally acknowledge are the stuff of nightmares now. In fact, there may be many a 90s kid still in therapy over this weird subgenre of television. If you were a kid back then, you might remember some of these crazy puppet shows for kids fondly, or not so fondly, and if you grew up during any other decade, prepare to be confused. Keep in mind that strange doesn't automatically imply bad. Some of these bizarre kids' puppet shows are actually excellent. In fact, in many cases it's their weirdness that makes them so great. 13. Whimsies House. Imagine a monster girl anime, only instead of being high school girls, it's about preschool-aged goblins, trolls, dragons, and birds. The premise of Whimsies House is a little bizarre. Why are these vastly different, mostly imaginary species all living together? How did a bird and a dragon manage to reproduce, and why are they all the same size? Logistics aside, some of the episodes get a little heavy for a kids' show. For example, there's one that focuses on Whimsy's mother's problems with her job, and one where a kid accidentally breaks another kid's leg. 12. The Adventures of Dudley the Dragon. Dudley the Dragon is a show about a dragon who was asleep for 100 years and woke up totally confused by his surroundings. It's basically Rip Van Winkle except for the part where he's a dragon, and instead of being branded a traitor to his nation, he just makes friends with a bunch of kids, a tree with a perpetually frowning human face who can send people back in time, and a caveman. So, pretty weird. 11. Bodger and Badger. Bodger and Badger focuses on the friendship between the two title characters, an ordinary British man named Simon Bodger, and a badger puppet named Badger. What makes this show so strange isn't the fact that a man is best friends with a badger. That's kind of weird, but it's par for the course with kids' shows. What makes it so weird is that the vast majority of their interactions involve Badger flinging mashed potatoes, hammers, and other objects in Bodger's face. That's funny. 10. Dog City. Dog City was an animated series about a dog detective who is frequently called on to foil mafia plots. While most of the series exists in cartoon form, there are frequent interludes from the show's animator, a nerdy-looking dog puppet who talks to his characters about how the story is going. While this is an interesting visual representation of the creative process, it's still pretty strange to watch 5 pictures of the same dog screaming in unison about how much they want meat, while their creator begs them to be quiet. 9. Agro's Cartoon Connection. Agro's Cartoon Connection was a series of skits designed to fill time around airings of Popeye and Samurai Pizza Cats. This Australian show was ostensibly for kids, but it ended up in adult territory more than once. There was a character named Crikey the Clown who would storm around Brisbane aggressively yelling questions at anyone he passed. Agro himself was even more adult. He routinely made sexual comments toward his co-host, Teresa. While many of these were cut out and stuck on a blooper reel, what actually got aired did push the envelope. If you want to see a weird puppet make jokes about giving his female co-host an internal, check out this video. 8. Aliens in the Family. Aliens in the Family was about a single dad who gets abducted by aliens, meets a single alien woman, falls in love with her, and takes her and her kids back to the suburbs where they live out a relatively normal human life. Relatively being the key word. One of the show's weirdest conflicts involves the alien mom's son Bobat's attempts to take over the world. Since it is a kids' show, those attempts tend to be relatively harmless, involving things sending a really big frog to destroy a town. Basically, Bobat is a PG version of Family Guy's Stewie Griffin. It's a weird show. 7. The Big Comfy Couch. Have you ever wanted to watch an adult woman pretend to be a small child who is also a clown? What about watching said woman spend almost all of her time sitting on a couch talking to a doll? If so, the Big Comfy Couch is the perfect bizarro 90s kids show for you. Lynette, the main character, learns important life lessons about sharing, using her indoor voice, and telling time. When she does leave her couch, she travels to Clown Town, where everyone is a clown for some reason. If you thought Pennywise would have been better as an adult child whose main character trait is excessive bossiness, maybe check this strange show out. 6. Wienerville. Wienerville is a series of skits about a town called, well, Wienerville, designed to fill time around kids' shows like Batfink and Mr. Magoo. Some of the puppets are tiny, scraggly little objects that look like they're made of felt, while others are puppet arms and torsos with the actor's head poking through a board. There's a Barney parody named Boney, who looks like he belongs on Attack on Titan, whose catchphrase is I'm Boney, leave me alone why. The other characters are about the same level of ridiculous. Episodes will usually start off with some plot-based premise, which ranges from something simple like a heat wave, or the mayor getting addicted to soda, to time travel and fictional court cases. It ends with audience members being wienerized or turned into puppets. Strange, but pretty fun. 5. Cousin Skeeter. Cousin Skeeter is basically a sitcom for kids. This wouldn't be so odd if not for its total failure to acknowledge the fact that one of the main characters, the titular Skeeter, is a puppet. No one else in the show is a puppet. The closest they come to addressing his puppethood is when he gets mocked for his short stature. This makes him absolutely furious. Also, almost every episode centers around Skeeter convincing his straight-laced cousin Bobby to do things that will get him in trouble. Bobby is basically letting a puppet control his life. Is that meta, or what? 4. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. While Sabrina the Teenage Witch was primarily about Melissa Joan Hart's adventures as a witch attending high school, it also featured Salem Saberhagen, her requisite black cat. Salem was sometimes played by 4 different actual black cats named Elvis, Lucy, Witch and Salem. Whenever he had to do something a real cat couldn't do, like have a facial expression, or be thrown across the room, he was replaced by a ragged puppet. What's even more bizarre about Salem is that he's actually a warlock, condemned to spend 100 years as a powerless cat for attempting to take over the world. While enacting that macabre plan, he also had a girlfriend named Sheele and attended his cousin Cheryl's bat mitzvah. Pretty good for 4 cats and a puppet. 3. Lamb Chops Play Along. Lamb Chops Play Along may be best known for the song that never ends, the song that every 90s kids made their parents miserable with during the show's heyday. While it's a genuinely cute and well-done show, it's got some pretty weird parts. For example, 2 of the main puppet characters are named Hush Puppy and Lamb Chop, which are food items, and the 3rd character is named Charlie Horse, which is a painful muscle spasm. They're all voiced by Sherry Lewis, and all sound pretty similar, other than Hush Puppy's constant use of the word ain't. Some of the messaging gets a little strange, too. In one sketch, Sherry Lewis tries to convince Charlie Horse that it doesn't really matter that his best friend moved away, because he can totally just make new friends, or get used to being alone, because ultimately you can't count on anyone except yourself. That's questionable to say the least. 2. Muppets Tonight. Considering the presence of the word Muppets in the title, if you're not expecting weird, you haven't been paying attention. Muppets Tonight focuses on a fictional TV network staffed by Kermit, Gonzo, Miss Piggy, and all the other Muppets we know and love. Sketches on the show include Dancing Cheeses, a parody of Baywatch called Bay of Pigs Watch, an Elvis Muppet acting out various historical events, and a parody of the real world where Clifford, Rizzo the Rat, Bobo the Bear, Bill the Bubble Guy, and Darcy live together, and drama ensues. It's a bizarre, hilarious show that's a window into 90s pop culture. 1. Dinosaurs. Dinosaurs is probably the most infamous puppet-based show of the 1990s, and for good reason. It's sort of like The Simpsons only, you know, with dinosaurs. Despite the fact that it's set in 60 million and 3 BC in Pangaea, the characters use technology from the 1990s. Culturally, it's also pretty 90s. They even have a parody of MTV called DTV, where they play music by bands like Road KYLL and Lizard Skizzard. One of the recurring gags involves Baby Sinclair hitting his father in the face with a frying pan. Oh, and they have an episode about workplace sexual harassment, which somehow manages not to be obnoxious. For all its weirdness, it's actually a pretty good show, with crossover appeal for adults.